Giving gifts, I'm checking on the list, huh? Under the mistletoe, you bet I'm gonna kiss ya. Gonna throw some snowballs and then we'll miss ya.
This year had its ups and downs. I mean, it was pretty uneventful for the most part. Like, sure, we had our dramas. And, hell, we even had those dramas cause a slight rift in the commentary community. Distrust was obtained, some people were out for blood, but it was a minority to the rest of the year. Like, I actually have to say, in the 3 years that I've been around in this community, I'm impressed with how okay we've been off this year. I mean, sure, we had our ups and downs, and we also had our fair share of bandwagons, and those were certainly something and a half. But when we look at the beginning of this year, the biggest examples of what some juicy material I was able to give off was Kungi Muller and Marcus Yamamoto. So to say the very least, this year was, for all it was worth, slow. Found a lot more problems in other communities this year that gave me a handful of potential entries. I'll just say that much. However, while I can say the community as a whole, minus the hiccups, was mostly okay, you look at individual commentators this year and a truly staggering realization at the lows of this year start to pop up. To say the very least, some of us got a little sloppy. I mean, no big deal, right? If only it was that bad. No, some of the lows from individual commentators had been downright egregious this year. Like, I'm not kidding when I say that the video where the commentator in question unironically challenges me to fisticuffs, and the one where the commentator accuses their target of plagiarism for having similarities in a video, don't actually make my list. Nor does the video where the commentator who shoves their own bias against another to argue points they blatantly misinterpreted, or the live stream commentary where the first point is my friend doesn't suck dick made it. I can't even in good faith say Dylan deserved to make my list this year, and he came up with a point where he claimed that he didn't call someone an SJW, while implying in the same point that he did. Mainly because I expect that of him at this point. So, the lowest that we had, I felt, were really something. Not all of them are frustrating, not all of them make me angry, but they were all showing a sign of either dishonesty, malice, or straight-up apathy to the target in question. And this is my list of what I personally felt to be the worst examples of that this year. Let's keep this tradition going. So, I shouldn't expect Go Animator commentators to be good, and, well, I don't. Most of them are obviously children, debatably with something that stunted their argumentative skills, and we probably won't ever see anything of quality from that quarter of the internet, but, this means I can make the Go Ranimate Chronicles an annual tradition. If they're not making the most arbitrary of arguments or discrediting someone based on shit that's beyond discrediting, Go Ranters can be pretty fucking cruel, some going out of their way to be reprehensible pieces of shit to their targets.
What do you mean? Doesn't even matter when you're fat.
Yeah, in a strange twist this year, I found a Go Ranter that actually pushed past the normal threshold of typical Go-Tard stupidity and actively went for a malicious role. The guy calls himself Peter Griffin, and while I too believe this guy is probably going for a character or is trying to troll, there's a fine line between trolling and active cyber harassment, and I don't know about you, but I firmly believe this video is the worst offender of how a video crosses that line about 7 times, and no one even batted an eye. Go-Tards are, to put it nicely, fucked if this is what passes.
I'm just sorry.
No. I don't care.
I mean, yeah, I had to do a fuckload of research to even understand what was going on, but when I finally pieced everything together, I was livid, to say the least. And before I get that guy in the comments saying that I'm taking a joke too seriously or I'm falling for a troll and feeding him, I think you misunderstand the situation. Peter was actively finding someone who is having relationship issues and is trying to apologize for what he did while at the brink of tears online for his girl to see, only to then say no one cares about that and everyone hates him. Sun Rainbow was at his lowest, paranoid and scared. This is no longer trolling.
Everyone hates you right now. That doesn't make any sense.
I don't have much to say on the matter as the video is fairly short, clocking in at just over 2 minutes, and on any other year, with any other video, this length of a bad video wouldn't even pass my mind as something that I can consider worse-worthy, despite Obscurion's old one-shot on Serious Gamer making one of my previous lists. But the intent, the timing, the attitude, and just how the commentator treated their target in the worst timing possible made this one the king of all bad short videos. Jonah Smith has had a rough year. Many of his commentaries either wound up being the people's punching bag or were just super annoying and condescending, with Jonah almost going out of his way to be a douche to those he covered. Which is disappointing. Like, he's a good kid and all, but sometimes he can just be a little too headstrong, and in turn, he doesn't think before he leaps or writes. And this coming from someone who's co-opted with the guy, so there's something of note there. I hope 2019 looks up for the guy, because I genuinely do want to see him get better, since this now makes 2 years in a row he's made my worst list.
So, I hate this video. I actually really hate this video.
Talk about an attempt at a leap of faith. Knowing what I know about the production of Jonah's video on Logan, I feel very responsible, but at the same time, I'm not sure what Jonah expected when he decided it was best to do this video unscripted so no one could check his work. If he thought it was going to be a walk in the park, then the unfortunate reality that he built his entire video off of a faulty premise must have really hit him, because Jonah's video starts with that faulty premise almost out the gate.
See my issue here? He flat out admits the game is viciously despised, and then he goes on to say that line later on. This line just feels so incredibly pretentious, as if you feel like the only person who doesn't like Sticker Star, when your own exact words contradict you, as well as most of the ratings and reception the game got in the first place.
It then persists throughout the video, but while that was annoying, it was not the sole reason that put this video on this list, because Jonah kept watching through and found the Patreon guest of all things that Logan put in his video to also be a target of reprehension, be it an unfortunate self-defeating complaint where Jonah complains that his Patreon guest has buzzing audio that's, and I quote, hard to hear.
Hey, your mic actually sucks. I'll flat out admit, it's hard to hear, but you can hear a faint buzzing whenever he actually speaks, and it's actually extremely distracting.
Or just genuinely strawmanning the guest when all they're doing is taking up Logan's recommendation of the older Paper Mario games. When I said the video was disagreeable, I had no idea this video would stem from it, and while I understand he certainly have learned from this fault, that doesn't exactly change how upsetting this video was. Here's to a better year for Jonah. Good luck, my dude. Hope 2019 brings you better days. Oh gee, poor Cam Project. He had such a rocky start at first. I want to get this out of the way. I do see potential in the guy, and I wish him the best for whatever the rest of his endeavors are. Hell, it was like July when I scripted this entry, so for all I know he could have gotten better. But his rocky start was really bad, and it was unfortunately emphasized by his video on my video talking about the 2017 Jared Shapiro drama. Yes, in 2018.
Where should we begin? Let's start with the elephant in the room, the twerking and the no me gusta scenes that you mentioned, Doodle. And before you take my words out of context, no, it isn't about cringy mean crap.
Now, let's not get it twisted. You can certainly cover a video that is over a year old. Hell, I wouldn't even mind looking back on what I may have done wrong in some instances in the past. But to start, I still stand by the fact that I saw this video as very dishonest. Cam skipping over a huge aspect of my video that debunks a lot of the claims that Jared was a self-insert of Jake Goldblum was very frustrating, especially when he kept saying that it was a Goldman self-insert regardless of the evidence being flimsy, which was my entire point.
We're dealing with a guy here who wrote himself into the Powerpuff cartoon in 2017, but this point, Doodle, hurts your credibility by a long shot.
Combined with how he had the worst of both the other two videos that covered the same topic, where he discredited my entire video based on a single sentence, ignoring how researching writer's credits are a thing.
God dang it, Doodle, I thought you were better than this. Researching a character online without actually engaging in the source material is mostly suicidal.
And ignored evidence that put his video in an incorrect form, just so he could push a narrative.
Thankfully, this is not true, and Let's face it, if this was actually a news video, I would just drop the video right then and there and leave and go pick up my paycheck.
Along with his sidetracking to make invalid even if they connected to the point statements is very blech. It's certainly the angriest at a video I've been in quite some time, even though I am willing to believe that it wasn't his intent. I felt very much like he was trying to purposely misrepresent my video because he heard that I didn't watch the episodes. Which, while isn't the first time I saw that in a video on me, much less that particular video, is certainly the worst version of it. So, then the Looney came back under fire in 2018, and dear Christ, has no one learned from the likes of Missy R. People still prude out over Ben's more open ideals towards nudity and pornography, and decide to make up any issue they can to call Ben a pedophile or a sexual predator. Even if he's merely defending ideals that state when somebody isn't hurting anybody, then it shouldn't matter what they draw. This sparked the likes of several annoying commentaries on him, 2 of which come from Arkham Knight Rider.
Well, isn't this magical? Today we're looking at Ben the Looney. Yet again.
To be honest, either of Arkham's videos on Ben are annoying, frankly. The first one pushes a bunch of strawmen on top of Ben and constantly pitches the idea of subjectivity to debunk subjectivity. Either that or says just because not everyone will agree with Ben that he can't use hyperbole.
Also, not everyone thinks what you think, okay? I've said that so many damn times that it's almost become monotonous. Again, as I said, not everyone thinks what you think. I've said this like all 3 my commentaries I've done. Jesus.
And don't get me wrong, the monotony and tedium of that video definitely got on my nerves. However, my ire stems from his second video, where Ben is talking about some furry trash that drew porn. And this is where Arkham became the love child to Missy and Frozen Angel, and then went outside to really shine in Fucktown, USA, as he looked at the situation, plastered pedophilia and bestiality onto it, and argued with that in mind. Fantasy versus reality be damned and all.
What's the big deal?
Except here's the thing. Bestiality and pedophilia are looked down upon for being non-consensual and just plain disgusting.
Now, this probably wouldn't have bothered me as much if he had informed us that Ben misunderstood the situation in his video, and people were accusing this tackle box of underage pornography, furry or not. But throughout the entire video, we're just left under the assumption that what Ben is saying is accurate. And with that very perspective, all Arkham had essentially done was attack Ben and accused him of actively trying to defend pedophiles, when all Ben was doing was merely laughing at people being upset that a porn artist draws porn.
Shitbags and dangerous, and it's really upsetting how many people kiss their asses. Yeah, how dare fans of artists support these artists and not get offended by what I'm offended by? What about my feelings?
I will have to give this video one thing. It is short, so the pain only lasts so long. But when that's the only positive I can give a video, that doesn't mean you're doing something right, it just means your video is only fucked so far. And perhaps not everyone agrees with me that this is the worst Arkham has produced this year. I know a lot of people would say his co-op with D6 is worse, but I believe it's just because people slept on this one, personally. So, first of all, I have no earthly idea what the crap a yokai watch even is. Now, that said, I didn't need to help write a script on it. Regardless, in 2016, Jimmy Wetzel made a video talking about yokai watch. Apparently it was negative. Then Nitro Rad did essentially a commentary on that, with the primary intent to give his 2 cents on the matter and defend yokai watch. Then Azelf 101 covered that in 2017. 2018 rolled around, and here comes Marcus doing a video on Azelf, who then responded to Marcus, who then responded back to Azelf, and it was garbage.
I got just the idea. Kill the music!
Marcus Ugandan Mega Man Yamamoto spent a good 40 minutes padding out his video with all the previous degrees and spent rarely any time actually attempting to debunk points, if that's really what you wish to call it. No, he instead spent a majority of his time arguing subjectivity with subjectivity, and essentially railed on anyone who may not have liked the series he did, going on a long rant regarding how Pokemon is essentially Satan, and prevents Yokai Watch from garnering any attention, despite not having any concrete evidence that's not his own rock-hard hate boner that he wishes to stick into Pikachu.
From the anime. Now, what's wrong with this picture? It's the fact that almost all the episodes aren't subbed. A total of 192 episodes and 2 movies completely unsubbed. And you want to know who caused this problem? Pokemon!
He spends numerous times using interjections to explain jokes that don't really need it, while turning around to take every joke as he made so seriously it makes my video on TP look semi-fucking credible by comparison. And for those who are new to my channel, that's not a good thing. At all.
But Axel is a robot.
No, Axel is a Reupload. A new type of Reupload. And yes, I know that because I did my research. I'm not big into Mega Man X, but at least I did my research.
Marcus's video is essentially a child throwing a tantrum for the most arbitrary reasons, and has single-handedly made the small Yokai Watch fanbase look worse than it probably realistically is. And while I was laughing for the majority of the video, it quickly became a video I got sick of and looked at with a sheer amount of ire and disgust. If he continues to make commentaries, my only hope is that he doesn't persist the behavior of railing on people for opinions he doesn't agree with. That seemed to be a constant thing with him this year from what I've heard. Also, hey Keyblade Master, when are you gonna get to editing that? What is substance?
I love my new intro.
Man, I was really exhausted on this video. Rowan Akemia is by far the most off-putting specimen I've seen this year, and not because he was infuriatingly bad, demonstrously beyond all hope, or even disgustingly cruel like several other people on this list are. No, just covering his video was a surreal experience, as I've never seen someone dive so deep into Meta 527 The Second's history just to dig up irrelevant bullshit to discredit a list. It's almost impressively creepy how obsessed Rowan was.
The part where you repeat that sentence after you say you hate a couple of them was not needed and make you sound like a jackass. And to quote your former fiancée Rashitsu in her Gupdule 89 commentary, not even that funny kind of jackass.
This video is purely as high as it is because of how exhausting Rowan's unscripted mumbling and successful attempts to give us nothing for a total of 32 minutes and 3 videos was. The theme for the next few videos are ones that had me fucking spent, and Rowan's is just the tip of the iceberg, as every time Meta said something that didn't align to an opinion he had years ago, Rowan would get seemingly offended about it and spends interjections at a time to explain how this was inconsistent with an opinion from years ago. Sometimes while even acknowledging the ability of opinions changing to begin with.
I know that time change and so your opinion, but if your opinion going to change, at least acknowledge your previous opinion. I mean, as much country that your ballot segment on your most hated viewing characters list received, at the very least, you did acknowledge that Bowser used to be awesome before you think he lost his charm. Here, you didn't acknowledge your past opinion on X2. I'm sorry, but I personally think that changing an opinion without acknowledging your previous opinion is a huge no-no.
Rowan also had this, bad habit of assuming Meta, implying that he only played some of the games he mentioned on his disappointing games list as of recently to the list, when Meta never implied such a thing, regardless of if it actually mattered at the end of the day or not. Used his own subjective opinion against Meta's subjective opinion to some, point, I guess. Oh, and even in some areas just misses the point entirely, which is always a fun time. And with all this combined, can you really blame me for saying that this is probably the worst meta commentary I can say I have ever seen?
Despite the game receiving overwhelmingly positive reviews, all Ubisoft wanted to do was create a platforming IP for people to enjoy, or for Ubisoft to compete with Nintendo's Mario or Sega Sonic You know what? I have no goddamn clue. Let's just say that this list was made before TFC 328 told me that the original Rayman wasn't properly playtested.
Honestly, despite how not so highly I think of Meta, I cannot deny that he's got his fair share of bad videos and off-putting remarks about homosexuals. But even with that said, when even Meta can make a passably okay video on you with his biggest fault being, he could have elaborated more probably, then reevaluation is in order. Overall. I can only say that much. I continue to ask the question of why no one can talk about Halo Fan without getting super uppity and aggressive about it. I mean, sure, Halo Fan isn't a great content creator, and his mysterious links to the dark corners of the internet and 42 videos on one guy who doesn't deserve the borderline harassment surely doesn't help his case with how good of a person he is, but at the end of the day, it's still Halo fan. He's the sheer definition of an easy target. But when one of your main criticisms is just to poke at a speech impediment and treat that as legitimate criticism, then I'm sorry, you're no better than 2017 Obscurian was with Joshua Culvyhouse.
Okay, that's adorable. He actually learned how to say D's instead of G's.
Dan's second video on Halo fan is absolutely infuriating, and if no one has used Dan's second video on me as evidence as to why kids in the commentary community don't work, they could sure as hell use this video, as Dan takes pages out of Prince Neo's Saturday School in the CanCom to make his video on Halo fan, and in case you don't remember last year's list, this is a bad idea, as all that leaves you to do is be a condescending tool towards Halo fan for the most arbitrary reasons you could, and forget to try when covering a long-term bandwagon.
You were on a roll. You were. I get it, you know. Oh, you didn't feel like cutting out the intro, and all, but I'm just saying next time you should, you know. However, you showed your face again. And you're still using an avatar.
For the first half of the year, this was the worst video I think we could have seen, especially given how slow the year was, and boy was I right. Don't get me wrong, I certainly had my fair share of issues with Halo fan this year, especially regarding his feud with Nicholas. I think both should have dropped after 10 videos, much less 92 between the two of them, but not even I think he deserves the cruel, condescending attitude that Dan vomits all throughout this video.
Halo fan HP00 did a response to me.
Like, I'm genuinely unsure what else to say. From making up issues you get on a Halo fan about, such as this means wooden, to purposely misunderstanding how commentaries work in regards to Halo fan's second video on Dan still having the first intro, to chucking on arbitrary rules into Halo fans' videos such as show us your real face. I get that Dan is still young. I'm not exactly sure how young, but I know he's still young, and I shouldn't expect a masterpiece from him. But despite hearing that his video on Jonah and I is somehow worse, I genuinely hate this video and everything it represents. Moving on. Hey, does anyone here remember Awesome Face Prod? Remember how he refused to debunk anything Manga Common said, did everything in his power to berate Common, reached for as many points as he could, and showed the world that not every video on Common is good or credible? Well, what if I told you that this year gave us another one? I mean, you'd think I was crazy, right? Like, who would remake Awesome Face's video? Meet Undead Meowth.
How it do, cunts and blunts? It's your boy Undead Meowth, back at it again with a brand new video. Today we're going to be talking about a commentator talking about commentators talking about an animated storytime teller.
Oh, joy. So, this year there was a lot of fucking retarded exposés to come out. Like, most communities this year had them, and I'm honestly surprised we never saw Doodletones Exposed Part 2 from Automagic. To say that most of them were unfounded conspiracies that reached for points or flat out made up stuff to ruin a person's reputation is being nice about it. People seem to try so hard to be the new iDubbbz, and it just winds up with people gathering a criminal record of libel. Ain't that right, Pentagram? The dumbest target of these exposés was Wolfie Chew, because the main point of contention was the fact that she faked her voice and therefore faked her stories, as if either of those are legit reasons to hate the girl. Undead Meowth seemed to be under that same rhetoric when he made this, because throughout the video he claimed Wolfie Chew edited her voice.
If anyone has ever modulated their voice before, they would know that the two things you need to do when speaking before modulating your voice is you need to enunciate clearly, and you need to talk slow enough so that your audio doesn't get muddied by the effect you're using.
When, for starters, that would make Wolfie Chew's voice sound more mechanical. Hi, I should be your basis of this. Other than that, he spends time either turning his commentary into a production-based one, which, even if I dislike Common's editing, Undead Meowth becomes obnoxious with, or just flat out finds every chance he can to berate Common without much rhyme or reason. Like, guys, I'm not making this up. He tells Common to actually get cancer. Like, he drops the jokes and the sarcasm just to say,
fuck you, and it's not even funny. Straight up, I hope you get cancer.
oh, and let's not forget how the entire basis of the commentary is that Manga Common is a hypocrite. As if that makes your videos somehow more in the right than your opposition. Like, what are you, Pink Robot? Like, I know being a hypocrite is seen as a negative trait that is actively frowned upon, but with how much Undead Meowth hammers in the idea that Common doesn't practice what he preaches, you'd think his video is built on a tukokui. which is rich, coming from the guy who constantly gets on Common's case for bad audio balancing, only to then blow out everyone's ears with his end card. I'm unsure if I'd say this is just better than Awesome Faces or just worse, but overall, while this was obviously not the worst video I've seen this year, it is the worst first impressions I've had of anyone in a very, very long time. Boy, this year had some horrid outsider commentaries. I mean, with everything that this list has led up to this point, our community has had some flops, sure, but that of course would be bound to happen every year. And regardless of how bad our community can be, we don't typically wish ill will upon our targets. Typically. But with that said, this year I saw a lot of commentaries from outside our community, and they were probably the most infuriating of the bunch, because they had no problems with merely bashing people for ideals they disagree with.
I know we're doing this again, but trust me, I think I know what I'm doing this time.
Honestly, I'm not sure who watched my commentaries this year and didn't see this coming. Out of all the shit I covered this year, Necro was certainly a specimen and a half of fuck towards the anime man and his opinion of Yuri on Ice. Oh, we can just push to the side his whole plain entire few interjections from a previous video he did on Joey to make a point that wasn't there. Necro's video was out to smear, or at the very least an attempt to vehemently attack Joey as a person, and straight up label him a homophobe for the egregious crime of not liking some figure skating anime with gay overtones. The horror.
I mean, I would hate to tarnish your image of what you said before, but you kinda did talk a lot about how their gay relationship just wasn't in your book of things that you liked in that show.
He's condescending, hateful, refuses to listen. What more could you want from a video that clearly had nothing but spite behind it? I'm not even sure exactly what more I could bring up to describe the abhorrent nature of this video, and I covered the damn thing. The constant strawmans to discredit Joey's reputation were annoying at best because, well, it shows that Necro had to make up an argument that he could debunk, which he later proved to me is apparently common for him. But if that wasn't bad enough, there was the attempted murder by asphyxiation, as Necro did everything in his power to strangle Joey's explanations to a point of absurdity. Not kidding you, there was a point where Necro gets onto Joey's case for having reasons to not like Yuri on Ice.
You were one of the biggest opponents of Yuri on Ice because you said a lot of things about it being bad writing, bad pacing. Like, do you not understand? Do you not self-aware? You're not self-awaring yet, Joey.
God, what a fucking train wreck. As usual, we did have more videos I took issue with that didn't quite find themselves a seat in the top 10, or alternatively, I just didn't care enough to cover throughout the year. So I'm just gonna briefly go over those now before we get to our number one.
And recently, he made a very lengthy Twitter thread talking about why he thought the whole drama was stupid, in which I'm going to be responding to today.
This probably could have been on the list had I known more about the drama backing it up, but since I don't, I only have the surface level shit to look at, and aside from Slayer's law-based evidence that diaper art is pornography being invalid, as typically diaper art doesn't involve penetration or sadomasochistic tendencies, this video was basically, let's jump on a person due to their fetishes and not due to anything they've actually done.
It's clear as day that Ty was angry at Dragon for the jokes he made about Doodletones. I mean, listen to his line delivery.
I guess it's only fitting that a video that's as subjective as what videos came out to be the worst ones were the worst ones to have a commentary done on them just because someone subjectively disagreed with the list in question. This goes out to anyone who did a commentary on a worst of list last year. I suppose it's not impossible to have legitimate issues in your list. Hell, I covered Snake's list. I'd be a hypocrite to say you can't cover one. But come on, subjective stances on videos shouldn't be your sole reason for a video.
Now, I could label this guy a sexist, racist, elitist, all the itsists, but that would just make me no better than this person.
The virtual celebrity spends the entire video not really debunking anything, but just kind of throwing in her own feelings into the video, not really actively debating Easy Peasy's video. The video also drags in arbitrary, unfocused, incoherent sidetracks that don't tie back into the point, and when paired with her throwing in passive-aggressive ad hominems left and right, sitting through the entire video is just one long chore that I wouldn't want to do again.
I didn't even need an introduction, but now, with breaking news and stuff, I had to introduce my viewers to you, just so they could say fuck you and say you're a cock.
Robert Gaylord is still arguably the worst child commentator I've ever seen. Yes, even worse than Benjamin Perry. His video on me convinced me that he's not a troll at least, but when you threaten to fight your target IRL, unironically mind you, straight up say that you refuse to improve, Dustin, and continues to shut your opponent down because you think your target is being mean, then I'm not sure what else to tell you except that you're just the worst of the bunch. However, luckily for Gaylord, while I do see him as the objective worst child commentator overall, his video on me wasn't the worst child commentary I've seen all year. I mean, obviously, right? And finally... Years ago, I covered a video by The Conundrum, where he was covering his friend DanMad. Despite not putting it at the top of my year-end list that year, it went down for 2 years as both the worst and least favorite commentary I ever saw. Conundrum went out of his way to belittle and berate DanMad with an invalid point, repeated ad nauseum, and then followed that up by personally attacking DanMad by bringing up some personal shit about a crush he had at the time to make him angry. I was super convinced that nothing would have beaten that in just how frustrated I got, and how scummy the commentator in question looked by the end of it. I was wrong. Dreadfully so.
You don't respect anybody because you are a womanizer and you think that you know everything, Vinny, and that's all I've got to say on the matter.
So, yeah, technically Beck's fault isn't a commentator, she's part of the YouTube vaping community, which, yes, exists. I mean, beer reviewing and pipe smoking were also things I found, so I can't say this is too far off. And while I'm not the one to say that people shouldn't be able to do commentaries, regardless of how much of a lost cause they seem to be, or how much their violent, toxic behavior upsets me, Beck's Fault's video is definitely a prime example of how that kind of criticism could be applied. As Beck, instead of defending herself from an awful fucking video created by another dumbass who can't keep to himself, Beck thinks it's a good idea to not only sink to Vinny's standards, but somehow go below it.
Tessa Brown needs to leave YouTube because she's nothing but a tosser and a loser who has got the biggest, fattest, ugliest face ever. At least I know that if I put makeup on, I look half reasonable. If she put makeup on, she'd look like a clown. An ugly one at that.
Threatening to take a video to the police. Attacks a livestream chat that had nothing to do with the incident and are probably just trolling the chat. Bringing personal information into the conversation. Expects a conspiracy where there isn't one. Makes personal assumptions against Vinny to make him look worse than he already was. Repeats invalid points ad nauseum as if she expects all this mudslinging to get people onto her side. All of the constant ad hominems. And all of this also coming from his video. So we just got two lowlifes playing the he said she said game as if they're beefing in high school. And you guys thought Conker's video on Princess Elizabeth was despicable in all the degrees.
They drag you for days on end over something so simple as a freaking vape pen and a vape juice, and then they go, "Oh, she's big. I'm gonna make fun of her every moment I get." Well, guess what? You can do that. You can do whatever you like, Vinny, because at the end of the day, I'm a little bit more better than you, and I know that because I haven't said one thing about you.
You want a true testament to just how draining this year was? This video's existence was based on a vape pen that apparently never got mailed to someone. The world's lamest drug deal turned out what I personally consider the worst commentary of 2018, and no, I don't think the world was better for it. Links to every entry's full videos are below if you happen to want to sit through this 29-minute fuckfest. Maybe you'll agree, maybe you won't, but that's just how I see it. At the end of the day, I believe we don't win battles by belittling the opposition and stooping to their level. May we make snide remarks, but never go further than that. Here's to see what comes for 2019. But before we end off, let's do the compilation of what I consider to be the best of the year.
No, we started this video with the play button.
She reviews animation memer.
Who is that mysterious pink robot? She's scaring me.
It's like a wingding.
Everything to you looks like a wingding.
Hypocrisy doesn't make him wrong.
That's not even the correct argument.
Guys, is anyone going to focus on the fact that this guy is a...
This doesn't make any sense. You don't get involved in the hype, but you merely discuss it, which by nature involves immersing you in it to some degree. I mean, regardless of what degree of hypocrisy that embodies, I can tell from glancing through your video list exactly how insincere of a qualifier that is.
A 3-second sentence, Jonah. At most. Calling it padding is just exaggeratory. Calling it irrelevant is straight up wrong. Counterbot was created by Pink Robot to cover commentaries done on her she disagrees with, and they're covering Counterbot. Even if we don't need to know about it, there is still a connection between the two statements, so there is still relevancy.
This is hardly the same thing. I don't even understand how you can see this as the same thing. Homosexuals are not just insatiable people that need to nut in the nearest thing they can find. Most people cannot find fulfillment in life without a life partner.
Okay, so this introduction, yes, it basically sets up for what your subject is, but on how you plan to tackle it is very vague as hell. It's not clear right off the bat on whether this is supposed to be something that is supposed to rise me up from the pits of despair, or a pity party missing Puddles the Clown.
Hey, that's great and all, but how's that debunk Jonah's point that the audio balancing is still bad? As from looking at the clip, I can honestly say that Jonah's not wrong here, as the clip has Kuromi speaking quietly with the music at a much higher level when compared to Kuromi's audio.
And even if you hate The Last Jedi with every bone in your body, that's quite a high claim. There's some more complaints from Rags about how he hasn't spoken about the film yet. For perspective, we would be 4 minutes into Aichi's video. That's not a particularly long introduction segment for an approximately 20-minute video. It's just long when you interject in every fucking sentence.
This better not be one of those instances where you're claiming you asked him to stop, because putting LMAO in the middle of that, I don't know if you knew, but that means laughing my ass off, kind of makes it seem like you're thinking it's funny. Oh yeah, content-wise, they're definitely talking about masturbatory aids. Don't put strange things into your sex holes, children.
Time the fuck out. What did you say there? I can explain. No, please. Tell me how you accepted substandard content enough to use him as an example. For context, this was months before that bot video covered him. That explanation isn't good enough.
How do you think commentaries changed you? Like, what did they do? Well, I guess when it comes down to it, usually when I find myself discussing things with someone, I guess I would forget that I'm not writing a script. Like, it's kind of hard for me to explain, but I found a connection between myself as a person and myself as a commentator, and not the type of connection I wanted.
Seriously though, the problem I have with what you were saying is how you just kinda ignored how he had a lack of focus with what he was saying, and instead wanted to repeat the whole point of "you slurred" yet again. You've done this about, let's say, 3 times by this point.